All right, here we go. Round two. Hey everyone, Stephanie here, hopping in on, what is this, Thursday afternoon, talking to you a little bit about plastic exposure. So I was on a few minutes ago. I apologize if you were on. I had to end the video to find some power for my phone. Okay. So really important topic, especially as we are talking about our healthy, hey, I'm glad you got back on, Tanya. So we're talking about plastics today and why they are quite a bit of danger to us. So earlier in the week, or last week, I think I talked to you about, your cookware and why we want to stick to certain types of cookware and avoid some others, even if they're really popular. So make sure in the membership site, if you have not downloaded my cookware guide, to go and into the membership site, check that out to get a little bit more information. However, I did not talk about plastics, so I wanted to just take 5 minutes and talk to you about plastics today. A lot of us are still storing our food in plastics. We're heating our food up in the microwave in plastics, and what's happening is we have some of those chemicals leaching into the food that we're eating. A big one is BPA. That's kind of been highlighted in cans and in plastics and in water bottles for quite a few years now, and I think companies are doing a pretty good job about manufacturing plastics and cans and stuff like that without the use of BPA. However, when it comes to plastics in general, there are other plastic there are other components in that plastic that are just as harmful as BPA, but they're not getting the mainstream attention. So I want you to even consider avoiding BPA-free plastics. I won't even buy those because I know plastic is plastic, and the chemicals from plastics leaching into our food is not natural, and our body will suffer. Okay, so our liver has to detoxify this, and it's pretty hard to do. But the other thing is that when we bring plastics into our system via food, it's creating free radicals in our body. And basically, free radicals are single molecules that are floating around in our body. And when they're single molecules, they're pretty dangerous. And they can really drive up inflammation in the system. When they're paired, they're not so dangerous. They kind of neutralize and they become helpful to the body. And one way you can neutralize a free radical is through antioxidants. So eating a lot of cruciferous vegetables, for example, would help to off balance some of the free radicals in our system. The problem is, with so many environmental toxins now, we have so many free radicals, even if we were eating 6 cups of cruciferous vegetables a day, for example, or other foods high in antioxidants like blueberries or pure chocolate, or cacao, I should say. Even if we were taking, glutathione supplements, which, have been proven to help with the process of helping antioxidants do their job, it still might not be enough, simply because we have so much of a toxic overload from things like our using plastics and things from using toxic cookware and things from, things outside of our control, like the water we're drinking or the air we're breathing or things like that. So when we think about what can we do that's in our control that we can reduce getting rid of plastics in general, BPA or BPA free or not, in my mind, it makes sense to kind of get rid of all of them. It's probably one of the least expensive swaps. Like I use these glass lock containers off of Amazon, and I think I bought, 2 or 3 different types of sets, and that's all I need for storage containers. They've got these nice, lock lids on them that I love. So that's an option if you're looking to move over to different options. There are affordable options, and you could do this pretty quickly, I feel like. When it comes to water bottles, definitely using like a stainless steel water bottle, not plastic water bottles. And then when you are looking and you're shopping for anything in a tin can, make sure it says non-BPA lining on the can of whatever you're buying, because these cans, especially if they are filled with acidic foods like tomatoes and it's not in a non-BPA lining can, it is leaching chemicals into those acidic foods like crazy. So when we have a lot of these free radicals, there's a few things that happen. So they become dangerous to the body. And one of the things that can happen is they will cause estrogen dominance. And when we have estrogen dominance in the body, a lot of the things that will happen down the road with continued exposure to estrogen dominance from a lot of free radicals, from a lot of these toxins, are hormonal imbalances, first of all, which could or may not, transpire into hormonal cancers, autoimmune diseases, candida overgrowth, and definitely thyroid issues, whether it's the autoimmune or non-autoimmune form of thyroid issues. That all of this stuff kind of builds up, and there's a domino effect. So it's not that plastic's bad for you. It is, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop at the liver just having to work harder. There's something that happens. So now we have this chemical in our body that becomes free radical, and we have this molecule floating around that's unbound. Even if it does become bound with a, antioxidant, our body still has to detox and process it, so it's working harder. And then we have so many, especially women with estrogen dominance, that, anything from estrogen dominance, I told you some of the big ones, but even things like depression and anxiety, really hard, uncomfortable periods, and infertility, and all of these things can come from this imbalance in estrogen. So if we are using so many of these plastic products, and we're thinking, oh, I'm doing a really good job because I'm using BPA-free plastics, I want you to think again. I want you to take it one step further and go to glass. If you don't have an issue with a metal overload, then use some stainless steel water bottles. But I really wanted you on this Facebook Live, I really wanted you to understand the domino effect of what happens when we allow that plastic exposure, when we allow those chemical components to become part of our daily routine. So just real quick to wrap it up, the plastic exposure that we're storing our foods in. And also, I wanted to point out one more thing before I signed off. BPA can be found in paper towels. So this has BPA in it. You can actually buy paper towels that are BPA free. You'd have to look them, they're more expensive, and you'd have to seek them out. But you can get paper towels without BPA in it. And then another one, I will never, receipts are a big one. They are covered and coated. Like, I will go wash my hands after this. They are covered and coated with BPA. So anytime I get a receipt from anywhere, and if I don't need it, I don't get it, I always tell the people to put it in my bag, and then I'll occasionally just leave it in the bottom of the bag and not even take it out, because it has so much BPA on it, even more than what you would find in the lining of a can. And just to give you some stats, the CDC tested 200 people, and 93% of those people had levels of BPA in their system that was a ridiculous amount over what the government deems quote unquote safe. So most of us have this presence of BPA in our system. And then what happens from that? Then we get more free radicals. The free radicals cause imbalances in estrogen. You have an estrogen dominance. Your progesterone goes down. That's one of the components to infertility. That's one of the components to any thyroid concerns, conditions, autoimmune diseases, candida overgrowth. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on and on and on. So in an effort not to freak you out, I would say one of the best swaps that you can make, especially in your kitchen, would be to Stop cooking on Teflon cookware, and I talked about that in my previous Facebook Live, and I also talked about that in more detail in the Healthy Cookware Guide. Teflon's got to go, and if I would say the other thing that is an absolute non-negotiable would be storing your food or warming your food up in plastic containers. Spend the 20, 30, 40 bucks, whatever it is, and if you don't even want to start that big with like a $20, $30 commitment, go to Walmart and get like one, buy them one at a time and throw out the plastic, because the domino effect and what happens long term from these toxic exposures is frightening. But we can't live our life in fear. So the next best thing is to like take a little bit of control. So am I saying, go and completely redo your kitchen? I mean, if you want to, you could, right? I mean, I totally giving you permission to do that too. But if budget's an issue, I would definitely swap out any Teflon first, swap out plastics second. And if it takes you, 1 to 2 to 3 months to get that done, make that a priority, because I do know what happens to your body when you have that exposure from the chemical components in plastic. Is there anything else I wanted to say? There are some supplements that can help with the detoxification process if you feel like maybe you have like an overload of BPA or metals or things like that, is glutathione. However, glutathione, there are some really great brands with some awesome supplements, and then there are also some other not so great options out there. So I wouldn't recommend doing like a crazy Google or an Amazon search and just buying the cheapest one. I do think that could be something that is extremely helpful for people, though, if they feel like they wanted to help the detoxification pathways and to increase how effective the antioxidants are that they are eating. Your body does create glutathione on its own, but it's generally not enough to cover what it needs to do. So what I'm going to do after I sign off here, I'm going to link to the glass lock containers that I use that I buy off Amazon. And then I will see if I can find an option for a high quality glutathione supplement, if that is something that people are interested in looking into. So I will link those below this Facebook Live. If you guys have any questions after you watch this, please let me know. I know that I said initially we're just going to talk about plastics, but I had to tell you what the domino effect was in the body, just so that you're aware. And a lot of this is about awareness, so that we can take control. We can't control everything. We can't control all the toxic exposures. We just can't. We can't control it. So let's accept that and then change the things that we can change. And it will be, it'll be a great impact on our system and body no matter what. So I want to thank those of you who hopped on live for hanging out with me for a few minutes and for dealing with my, my cell phone battery. I don't even know what it was. It was a snafu. I'll blame it on technology, that thing. And if you're watching this on replay, let me know in the comments that you're watching it on replay and if you have any questions. But I hope everyone's doing well, and I will talk to you guys soon. See you later.